How's it going, guys? Today I want to talk about FLSA travel time. Especially, I've been getting a lot of questions from my colleagues and other clients regarding that, and there was issues where they have a lot of personnel travel to the work site and trying to understand whether or not first of all, are those hours compensatable? Secondly, if they were compensatable, are they part of the working hours? So today, what I want to show you is really, hold on one second. So today, what I want to show you is really the definition of what would be considered as travel time, and at the same time, what's the FLSA standards like fact sheets from wage and hour standpoint, so that you guys kind of have something to reference back to going forward. And let me pull up a travel time. So if you look at here, FSA travel time fact sheet number 22, wage and hour. Hours worked under the Fair Labor Standard Act. If you are working on a service contract or Davis-Bacon Act and any other acts, then probably because they are already compensated employees, they regulate already compensated employees. So this is what something they need to keep in mind. If you are already compensated though, so there's a overtime component in there. That's why the FLSA is applicable in here. So the fact sheet provides the general information concerning what constitutes compensatable time under FLSA. The Act requires that employee must receive at least minimum and may not be employed more than 40 hours without receiving at least one time and a half their time to be paid as overtime hours. So the amount employees should receive cannot be determined without knowing the number of hours worked. So there's a component in terms of how many hours is actually worked. So that's why it's pretty important in this situation. And when it comes down to there's a definition. Okay, so here is pretty important when it comes to hours worked in a work week, right? A work day. So the work week ordinarily includes all time during which an employee is necessarily required to be on the employer's promise on duty or at the practice workplace. Workday in general means the period between the time on any particular day when such employee commences his or her primary responsibility and the time on that day at which he or she sees such principal activities of the work days may therefore be longer than an employee's scheduled shift hours due toward duty and production time. So if I'm a normal like salary personnel, but your scheduled day is scheduled to be here at let's say at 8:30 to 5:30. So that's your normal working day, right? So any time incurred within that period will be considered as a working time for when you work, minus the lunch, right? So then I will go down to the list because we're talking about travel. So there are so many different components of travel that, like travel home to work travel. We know that most of the time, if I go to my work site, from my home, that hours will not be is not compensatable. Will be not really considered as travel time. So that's okay. The second one is a home to work on a special 1 day assignment in another city. Okay, this is very important. An employee who regularly works at a fixed location in one city is given a special 1 day assignment in another city and returns home the same day, which is the same day travel. If I work in DC, if I travel to New York and come back from New York to DC area, is 1 day, right? And the time spent in travel to and returning from the other cities is working time, except that the employer may deduct or not count the time the employee would normally spend commuting to their work site. Say, so I if I take a train from DC to New York, it's about like 4 hours. So that 4 hours back and forth, it will be 8 hours entire day, and then I will be working there. Let's say I hop on a train at 5 a.m. and then by the time I got home from New York to DC, then like say 10 p.m. So from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m., that entire time will be my travel will be compensatable, regardless how if I was working on the train or not. Because in this case, I'm working on one special day assignment over there and coming back. The entire time will be considered working time. So it will be compensatable. All right. So the next is travel that is all day in a day of work. Time spent by the end employee in travel as part of their principal activities such as travel for job site to job site, from job site to job site during the workday is working time and must be counted as hours worked. Okay, so this is very important, meaning that some contractors may work from job site A to job site B, from there, but since they were at job site A, the transition to job site B, those hours will be considered as hours worked, will be compensatable. Okay. Now, the most company has the issue when it comes to travel time. That's a travel away from the home community, meaning that there's gonna be a overnight travel, right? Travel away from home is clearly work time when it cuts across employees' workday, right? If you remember earlier, we talked about a workday. What's the workday? A workday in general means the period between the time on any particular day when such employee commences his or her principal activities and the time on that day at which he or she sees such principal activity or activities. The workday may therefore be longer than employees' scheduled shift hours toward duty or production time. So if my normal working day is like I don't know, like I work 7 days a week, so and each time I will go to work, I work like 10 hours. So which means your working day, let's say like 7 days a week. So anytime you travel within those working days, those are your working days within a week, or within a work week will be compensatable, will be considered as compensatable time, and can be determined as hours worked. Okay. So if I'm going down here, right? So the time is not only work. If I work like Friday to Thursday. I say Friday to Thursday, I could take 2 days of break. If I hop on a train on Thursday night, no Friday to Wednesday. Let's say if I work from Sunday, if I'm normal working weeks, let's say Monday to Friday, just say normal work week from Monday to Friday, I get Saturday to and then Sunday, right, off. If I need to hop on a train overnight, so if the train, let's say I hop on a train on Friday, like Sunday night, and or hop on a plane on Sunday night, I need to take a red eye to the California. So those time, actually, I was traveling, right? So those are cut across my normal working day because by the time I got to Cali, it will be a Monday already, right? So it really depends on your working day, and your work time. What's your work time? The time is not only hours worked on regular working days during the normal working hours. So there's another definition here. What's the normal working hours? You can say you're required to be here to work at 8:30 to 5:30. That's your normal working hours. So that means anything before 8:30 or after 5:30 will not be your normal working hours. Okay, so the time is not only hours worked on a regular working day during the normal working hours, but also corresponding hours on non-working days. So if I need to travel to the work site, okay, and I'm traveling on Saturday, if I'm traveling on Saturday, but during the corresponding hours on the non-working days, So during that period that I'm required to travel for the work, those hours should be considered as compensatable hours. However, for those compensatable hours, it really depends on what you're doing, how you get there, right? As an enforcement policy, the division will not consider as work time that time spent in travel away from the home outside the regular working hours as a passenger on a airplane, train, boat, bus, or automobile. So this is very important. It's saying, let's read again. As an enforcement policy, the division will not consider as work time that the time spent in travel away from the regular working hours from home outside the regular working hours as a passenger. So let's say if you travel from my example is I'm required to be here 8:30 to 5:30. If I travel from after, like say I travel on Sunday after 5:30, and I am a passenger on an airplane, that time may not be considered as hours worked per the definition of this in this situation. However, if I flew out on Sunday, say from 8:30 my time, I fly out 8:30, and then I'll be in Cali for let's say 3 p.m. So this entire time will be compensatable, will be considered hours worked per this definition, travel away. So because the time is not only worked on regular days during the normal working hours, but also corresponding hours on non-working days. So this is very important to understand that. Otherwise, you will be in trouble in compliance with FLSA. Most of the time, a lot of companies just to try to simplify the process so that they can just don't really keep track with it and don't want to have any liability for that. So what they're doing in those situations, they will just treat the hours worked, the travel time as hours worked, unless it's on the after hours worked. So that's kind of save you a lot of trouble, headaches if you want to do that in that way. But that's the most proper way to do it is track when the employees is traveling and what time frame they are traveling. Consider those, compare that to your regular working date and your regular working schedule for that person to be to complete the activities. So with that said, it's very important to understand what will be considered as travel time, what not be considered as travel time. And if you want to have any questions, leave a comment down below, and I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. Until then, see you next time. Peace.